This is a collection of compilation, actually, of 8mm movies that my dad took, Charlie Weisbrod took in the 50s and 60s. They're not in any particular order in this video, DVD. My son Steve had them converted from 8mm film to DVD and then had them put online. They're available with a whole bunch of other pictures that he had scanned in a Facebook group called Weisbrod Reading. And feel free to go there. It's an open group. Feel free to go there and look at all the pictures. A lot of them are labeled and have comments about them. But anyway, so I'm going to try and this is being downloaded from our phone, and we don't have very good phone service out here. And if there's any break in it, we'll just work through it. But we're going to do this, and I'll try to narrate a little bit. This is at Indian Lake, probably about 1957-58. There's Indian Lakes in central Ohio. This boat coming at us is got Tommy Ealing in the front, Carol Ealing right along, and my grandfather Andy Weisbrod driving. There's a pontoon boat that nobody knows who it is. This is a rowboat with me and Dusty in it. I'm driving. Dusty, Don Ealing, is in it. We would back it up against the seawall and that way tie it off by the back of the boat to make it easier to get on and off. Here's Carol Ann and Tommy trying to row the boat together. Tom finally took over so he could get somewhere. Here's me with a baseball cap, Don Ealing, Dusty, and then I think that's probably Dennis, his little brother, holding up a stringer of fish that we caught at the lake. We're in here a lot. There's Grandma Weisbrod, Minnie Weisbrod, Gert Ealing, Ed Ealing holding Carol. There's my grandfather Andy Weisbrod. Again, this is probably about 1956 or 57. There's Minnie. There's Gert. And there's Ed holding Carol. Here is me in the rowboat by myself, bringing the boat back into the seawall. I guess I was about 10 years old, maybe 11 years old there. I was born in 46, so that makes it about 1956 or 57. Here I am in the other boat by myself. This one's got an outboard motor on it. Looks like I'm coming into dock it. Spent a lot of time in these little boats. I guess that's why I ended up becoming a professional captain. Looking pretty professional there in an amateur sort of way. Oh yeah, total control. This is interesting. This is a steeple. That's Andy Weisbrod, my grandfather. Him and another guy were at this church that they were taking the steeple off of it for days, watching every day. When it came time with the crane to take the steeple down, the guys saw that, the workers saw that Grosspup wasn't there, and they waited until he got there so they could take the steeple down so he got to watch the finish of the job. The church is actually in Reading, between Benson and Voorhees, somewhere on one of the side streets. It's not the Catholic church. I don't know which church it was. But actually you can see that the steeple framework actually started to come apart here and started to disintegrate as they were lowering it. That was the excitement for the day there, for the week in Reading. Looks like they got it down pretty much safely. This is wintertime in Reading. This is looking up Jefferson, I think. There's the Annie Hunterlaw's house on Jefferson, next door to my grandparents' house, which was on Voorhees, 131 West Voorhees Street, I think. I think it was West. Maybe it was East Voorhees. Okay, here's Christmas inside the house. We always went to my grandparents' house for Christmas. There's a ton of kids in there opening presents. There's not enough light to really see what's going on, but it was always a big family deal. As time went on, there were just more and more kids. My grandfather couldn't hear very well, so he had a hearing aid. It was battery was in his glasses, and he turned the hearing aid down when the kids were all there. So this is the Mill Creek. This is on the Reading side, looking off across into Arlington Heights. They replaced that bridge. The Mill Creek used to flood pretty regular in the spring. I think they've controlled that pretty much now, but then this is on the Arlington Heights side, looking towards Reading. Again, this is Jefferson Avenue, but it could be in the springtime. This is down on the Little Miami River. The Roths had or Rolfs, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, they had a cottage down the river called Chitlin's. And then right up the road from it was a pool and a park facility called Hoppy's Island. And it would get destroyed, or at least trashed, almost every other year with flooding. And that's, Dad was taking movies of that. There's Dad, Charlie Weisbrod, in his 55 Buick that he had for years and years. Dad was always a snappy dresser. Okay, here's a video of probably some about the same time. Looks like flooding on the Ohio River. This is from the Eden Park overlook, looking across from Cincinnati to northern Kentucky. That's probably Dayton, Kentucky, over there. You can see all the storage tanks. Back then in the 50s, the riverfront was a real mess with storage tanks and junkyards and all kinds of trashed out area. Now they've got it all cleaned up and fixed up pretty good. See barges on the river. Here we are driving into downtown Cincinnati. I'm doing the filming because I'm on the passenger seat and can barely see over the top of the dashboard. Here we are at a traffic light. Notice the old cars. This is probably Easter time. It's at Grandma and Grosspup Weisbrod's house on Voorhees Street. That was me that just come out clowning around. I think that is Norb and Babe Weisbrod with Jerry and Barb. And this is, everybody would always go over to Grandma's and Grosspup's for Easter dinner. This looks like some of the eelings coming out. There's a great story about cooking a ham that you had to cut the end off of the ham, the little bone end, and put it down on the tray while you were cooking it in the oven. Here is, I think, is Grandma and Grosspup's 60th wedding anniversary, and they had a mass at St. Peter and Paul in Reading, their parish. There's Terry Ealing. Here's my stepmother Dina with the white hat. Terry, Mike in a striped shirt, me behind Mike, and Dusty facing us, Don Ealing facing us. This was later. This was probably 1960, 61, I guess 61 or 62 maybe. Here comes Grandpa, his 54 Plymouth, coming into his driveway, back from church. There's Minnie, my grandmother, Tom Ealing. I don't know who the lady is behind him. There's Grosspup with the gray hair, and there's Uncle Norby, probably carrying, not Jerry, but Ronnie, I had to guess. Here's my stepmother, Dina, and my stepsister, Sheila, coming out of the house on Beach Road. I think Dad bought that, and Dina and Dad moved in there in 1960, I think is what Sheila told me. So this would have been probably the first year or two, again, 60, 61. With, I think, Dash the dog there. They always had a ton of dogs running around. And even all dressed up, Dean would still play with the dogs. Never met a dog she didn't like. I never met a dog that didn't like her. There's Terry hitting the ball. There's Mike going to catch it. Nope. Goes over his head. He has to chase it down towards the road. Now, across where all that brush is, across the road, that's all built up now with houses. Big subdivision over there. Here we were, sled riding on Beach Road Hill. Dogs always have to get in the way when you're sled riding. This winters, I guess, were colder then. There was always snow on the road in the wintertime, and we'd sled ride down that hill. Sometimes you see cars trying to get up the hill, but usually they didn't. They'd try and go a different way. There's Terry. Mike just passed him up. And a gravity-fed activity. Mike was much bigger, so he was always out front. I don't know who was taking the movies. Could have been me or it could have been Dad. On the sled. Here comes Sheila. Here comes Terry. Here comes Mike. And here comes me. Mike and Terry and Sheila were Dina's kids by previous marriage. Great folk. We had a lot of fun together with kids. Got into a fair amount of trouble. Not too bad. I mean, we were just kids. There's Mike on the left, me in the middle, Terry on the right, and Sheila bringing up the rear. Here comes Terry. Crash. Because me and Mike run into each other. Mike got a little drama going there. Here comes Sheila. Boom, off the side of the road. She gets up, waves to the crowd. We always called her Babe, because I think she was the baby of the group, the youngest. At least till Lisa came along. Dad loved to film trees, snow. There's the house on Beach Road. Snow all around. And poof, it's springtime. It's quite a bit of property there, really. And when back on that tree line, you could look down over the river. Okay, here's Dina. I don't know where they were or what the occasion was. That look like it was kind of in the fall or winter. Here she is sunbathing. Because the 8mm rolls were so short and we didn't really have them dated or anything to know where they were, so they're all kind of jumbled up. Not even in the same year. Here is Dina and Sheila getting ready to go to church. Looks like it could be springtime or maybe even summertime. It has to be after Memorial Day because you always never wore white until Memorial Day. That was the fashion rule. Here's Dina and a couple of ducks. Sheila told me that they got these ducks like at Easter time as little tiny ducklings, and by summertime they were grown up. Dina was always feeding the ducks, feeding the animals, feeding the dogs. No fear. Some people call them ducks. I call them walking poop machines. I don't know where this is. Dad and Dina sometimes would take off for like a little extended weekend. This could be French Lick, Indiana. That was a popular place for them to go. A lot of horses there. There's a 1959 Buick. It looked like a Batmobile. So there's Dad's 55 Buick. This is the side yard. It was the neighbor's house. Their last name was Beshman. They had a boy about our age, Ronnie. There's Dash the dog. Dog was always outside. In the wintertime, he'd sleep outside. You'd look out after it snowed. There'd be a mound of snow with smoke or breath coming out of one end. The dogs would always chase Sheila around. And Dash would grab the back of her pants, the belt loop or the little flap pockets on the back, and try and pull her pants down. She was constantly pulling her pants back up while she was running. I don't think he ever got them completely off. Tripped her up a few times. I can just hear Dad yell, "Run, Sheila, we're making a movie. Run, give us some action." Here's Mike. Some people might think he's running, but that's about as fast as he goes. The backyard, they always had a big garden, and that looks like it's getting ready for planting in the springtime. Actually, it's even a little muddy. And the guy who had the farm on the other side of Beshman's, I can't remember his name. He wasn't a real friendly person. Now this is going to be about, let's see, 1966. This is Lisa at about 1 year old, maybe less than a year. Just starting to walk. She would usually hit with a thud. She hasn't changed much when you think about it, really. Yeah, all fours work much better. And that way you can kind of sneak up on the dog, too. There's Mike's 55 Chev. I know it's Mike's because the roof is primered. Mine had a white roof, but it was gray primered like Mike's. Here comes Dina and Lisa and Sheila. Looks like maybe they're heading to church on Sunday, since Lisa's got her hat on. They always got dressed up for church. Here is Sheila, much older, being chased by the dogs. And probably, looks like Lisa's probably close to 2 here. So, she always liked dogs. Dogs liked her. Lisa still has lots of dogs around. Of course, she'd rather go play with the dogs than have a movie made. Here we are. I think this is Sacred Heart Church in Reading, down on Columbia Avenue. I don't know what the occasion was. Maybe May 1st, or it could have been First Communion, maybe confirmation. Don't know. And this is inside, but there's not enough light to see anything. With the old movie cameras, you didn't see what you were filming. I mean, it wasn't like now with video where you can see what you're doing and what the exposure is, and then you'd send the film off, and then it'd come back weeks later, and then you'd watch it and realize that it didn't work out well. So there's Grandpa Weisbrod, Andy, and I think his brother Spike, and they're painting the house. There's a great story about those two. Here's me coming out of the apartment on Ohio Avenue, where I lived, getting in the car. Then here's me and Dusty blowing up a pool float. This is at Coney Island Sunlight Pool. This is back to probably about 1960. 59 or 60. Some of the stuff that we saw with Lisa would have been in the 66, 67 era. Kind of overexposed. When we had these films put on the DVD, they were probably 30 or 40 years old, so they held up amazingly well, considering how old and brittle the film was. There's me and Dusty again at Sunlight Pool. Dusty almost runs over some little kid. Here we are diving at Sunlight Pool, or pretending to dive. Not very stylish. When our grandfather was in his 80s, he was still going off the 10-foot diving board. Here is a wedding at St. Peter's, St. Peter and Paul. It is Jim Lichtenberg and Weisbrod, not Carol Weisbrod? I don't know. I forget. So there's Jim and the bride and a bunch of people. Extended family. Between the Lichtenbergs and the Weisbrods, that's a lot of people. At one time I knew what this lady's name was, but I've forgotten. New baby showing off. There's the priest, Father Kammerer maybe, or something like that. But it was definitely summertime. Now, in a second, you're going to see the bride standing there. My grandfather thought this was that the updraft put her veil in the air. He thought that was the funniest thing he ever saw. That tickled him every time he saw it. There's the bridal party getting together. This is the backyard at Voorhees Street. There is Annie Hunter-Law's house. During the war, Grosspup raised chickens in that little garage there. And there is his Plymouth, I think. Okay, this is at a lake. I think possibly Lake Laramie up in central Ohio. We used to go on vacations together, extended family go on vacations together with aunts and uncles and grandparents and a whole bucket load of kids. Dusty and I stayed in trouble pretty much all the time. We're only about 9, I'm older by about 9 months, 8 or 9 months. And so we were always pretty much up to the same thing. Here's some people, I can't tell who, on a boat. This might be at Lake Laramie. Looks like they're trying to get the outboard started. There, and they're off. There they go. These little pothole lakes in central Ohio, they're kind of big, but not very deep and full of stumps. It was a real challenge keeping the outboards running as stumpy as those waters were. I mean, probably all the way across that lake, it never got more than about 8 or 9 feet deep. There's a rodent eating a peanut. Chipmunk. Here we are playing, and that's my dad just running in there. Of course, we all run over and try to drown him. So, Charlie Weisbrod, probably, again, we're probably talking about 1960. Still fairly young guy then. We would pile on until we'd push him under. There he comes out of the water. Couldn't see what he was doing. He didn't have his glasses on. But we all had fun. You have to wonder if somebody colorized this water. I don't remember the water ever being that blue at those little lakes. Of course, they were a lot cleaner then than they are now. I think these are guys that Dad was in the military with. I think the one guy's, or his buddies from Reading. He ran around with a bunch of guys. They had a club they called the Mad Caps, and they would go on vacations together, go on trips together. I think that's Harry Wallenhorst with no shirt on. I don't know. Here I'm coming down the hill from the apartment building again. Here's Dad and Grosspup talking to some guy. Don't know who that is or what the deal is. I think it's at the back of the house. No. I don't even know what house that is. This is a gathering of guys that Dad was in the military with. They would get together every year and have a picnic. A lot of the guys were from Indiana, so that's me and the baseball cap. A lot of guys from Indiana, they would meet at some central place for them, and usually somewhere around Indiana. In Indiana, there's me and Dusty in the boat again. I'm driving. Nope, that's not Dusty. It's some other little kid. So these guys, I don't remember their names really. I only see them once a year. They'd get together and literally tell war stories. That's Lou Hetz who was just walking by. That's the only one I recognize. And the lady with the glasses is Lou Hetz's wife. I don't remember her name. Betty, I think. They had a daughter. I think her name was Darcy. We switch scenes from place to place. Don't always know which scene is hooked up to which reel. Oh, July 27th, 1968. This is me and my wife Judy. We were just married, coming out of St. Michael's in Sharonville. What a doll baby. Beautiful girl. We ever get her eyesight fixed, she'd kick me to the curb so fast. There's Nikki Garrett, was a bridesmaid. There's my sister June. There's me and Judy getting into the car. We had to leave town. July 27, 1968. Certainly Vietnam era, right? We were in Sharonville, Ohio. There was a huge military facility right there, a big weapons depot. And during the ceremony, there was a huge thunderstorm. And there's my mom, Louise, and Judy's mom, Ginny, there in the pink. And that was Judy's dad, Dick right there, Dick Morris. So a train derailed and they had an explosion, and they thought it was going to be really bad in a fire. So the civil defense ran everybody out of town. So we had to get out of town right after our wedding. They actually wanted to interrupt the ceremony, but the priest let us finish. This is at our wedding breakfast in Montgomery at a restaurant called the Bismarck, which is long gone now. And there goes the wedding party. There's me catching up with them. Jimmy and Marcia Klinger. Tracy Garrett finishing his cigarette. My cousin Mark. There's me and Judy. I believe this is the day that we got married. We went back to the house after the wedding breakfast, put on our play clothes, and wandered around. That's my mom, me, Judy, and Dash the dog. I think when we got married, I weighed about 127 pounds, and Judy weighed about 105 pounds, I think. And my mom would never tell anybody her weight or her age, so we have no idea. This is at one of the picnics of Dad's gathering of the guys he was in the service with. That's Lou Hetz. He had a pony keg up near what's Eastgate now. For years and years and years. I don't know who these guys are. Apparently a consistent theme is no hair. There's my sister June, who has plenty of hair. We were at an age too, we were in our early 20s. There's Lisa with somebody's baby. But we were an age when we were going to these picnics, it just wasn't a place we really wanted to be, but, a family thing. And a lot of these guys were getting older, and we'd been having a picnic with them once a year for a really long time, and they were starting to die off, so you kind of didn't want to not go, because you never knew when you wouldn't see them again. This is my mom, and I believe it is my niece Tracy. That is the end of that. So there you have it. That's all the film that we got converted. It's really nice to have, and so my information is as good as I remember, which probably isn't all that great. If anybody's got any more information, be sure and let me know. But I'll email this around to everybody, and they can get a chance to see it. Again, it's available to look at anytime on Facebook, on a Facebook group that's open to the public. It's not limited at all, and it's called Weisbrod Reading. So there you have it.